To most people, the word finance conjures up a world of complicated, hard-to-understand terms. Derivatives, credit swaps, option trading. Enough to give you a headache just thinking about them. But stripped of the technical jargon, finance is actually quite simple. It's just another word for the circulation of credit and money. Together, they're the lifeblood of the economy, on which a country's prosperity depends. I'm a historian. My name is Philip Short, and I first came to Shanghai nearly 40 years ago, at a time when it was almost unimaginable that one day this city would become the financial center of the world's second largest economic power. Yet today, the dream has become reality. To me, as to most Westerners, the way Shanghai has spread its wings is simply astonishing. Shanghainese sometimes say that those wings are the two sides of the Huangpu River. So that's where I shall start looking for the keys to Shanghai's extraordinary transformation. The Bund extends from here about 1.5 kilometers to the south. Most of the Western buildings we see today have been rebuilt, some of them 2 or 3 times. But already at the end of the 19th century, the giants of Western finance were all here. The Oriental Bank from Britain, the Russo-Asiatic Bank, the Deutsche Asiatische Bank from Germany, Citibank from the United States, and the Yokohama Specie Bank. A number of insurance companies, and of course the bank with the bronze lions, HSBC, the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation. To many Western businessmen, Shanghai was a place to make your fortune. Before 1869, it took 4 months, often longer, to come here by sea from Europe. To the east, Shanghai looks out over the immensity of the Pacific Ocean. To the north, south, and west are the teeming provinces of the Chinese interior. But that year, the Suez Canal opened. The travel time from Europe to Shanghai was cut to 6 weeks. Steamships replaced the clippers, carrying hundreds of times more cargo. By the end of the 19th century, submarine cables had been laid between London and Shanghai, and news could be sent by telegraph. With faster communications, trade expanded quickly, and capital, in other words finance, moved more quickly too. Huangpu Beach Road in the international settlement was home to more than 20 foreign banks and various joint stock companies. 4 others were Chinese. The Daqing Government Bank, which then served as the Imperial Treasury, was at number 50 Hankou Road. The presence of so many Western banks and companies laid the foundation for the modernization of the Chinese banking sector. But there were also more fundamental factors at work bringing change. As China entered the 20th century, revolution was in the air. A revolution in politics and society which for the first time in many hundreds of years would profoundly alter the way the country was ruled. On January the 1st, 1912, the Chinese Republic was proclaimed. 6 weeks later, the Qing Emperor abdicated. The political revolution had triumphed, but who would lead the financial revolution that was coming hard on its heels? In Shanghai, 4 men were at the forefront of the financial modernization drive. Jiang Jiao, Chen Yongming, and Li Ming had studied in Japan. Chen Guangfu graduated from a famous American business school, the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Jiang Jiao worked here in this building, the former headquarters of the Daqing Government Bank, which Sun Yat-sen, the Republic's first president, renamed the Bank of China shortly after the revolution. Today, it's not only the country's oldest bank, but also one of the biggest.
Jiang and the other 3 returned students had no interest in working as compradors for foreign businesses. They wanted to create modern banks for Chinese customers. Since they couldn't compete directly with the foreign banks in their expensive offices on the Bund, they rented premises in the area just behind. This extended from Suzhou Creek in the north to what used to be the Yangjing Creek in the south, forming a 2 square kilometer block, which at the end of the 19th century was full of shops and go-downs and traditional Chinese banks. Native banks, as foreigners called them. The most innovative of the new foreign-style banks that the young Chinese returnees established was the Shanghai Commercial and Savings Bank, founded by Chen Guangfu in 1915.
The building where the Shanghai Commercial and Savings Bank was founded is on the corner of Jiangxi and Ningbo Road, about 500 meters east of the Bund. But in 1915, the Bund was no longer what it was. Foreign companies had been hit hard by the European War, and many Western businessmen had gone home. Chen's bank prospered. Less competition meant more opportunities. The bank's central location also meant it was close to the many flour and textile mills and small workshops turning out food additives and pharmaceutical products that lined Suzhou Creek. Industry needs finance, and the foreign banks set very strict conditions for lending to Chinese companies. So Chen initiated a policy of granting loans to factory owners, using as collateral their machinery and equipment, finished goods and real estate assets. Western banks already did this for foreign companies, but Chen, for the first time, applied this to Chinese businesses.
When Chen Guangfu established the Commercial and Savings Bank, Jiang Jiao was deputy manager of the Bank of China's Shanghai branch, working under Song Hun Jiang, who'd spent his early career as a comprador for foreign banks. That year, Jiang and the other bankers started organizing a daily bankers' luncheon, at which they exchanged information and discussed how to take advantage of the European war to expand Shanghai's banking sector. Such reflections were abruptly interrupted, however, when on May 13, 1916, the participants found themselves suddenly confronted by a much more serious issue.
Let me explain. If you look at a banknote from that time, it says very clearly, payable to the bearer in silver dollars. In other words, anyone who possessed one could go to the bank to have it exchanged for silver, then the standard on which the Chinese currency was based.
The trouble was, the Northern warlord government had been recklessly printing money. It had issued more than $70 million in banknotes when there was only enough silver to back 20 million. So the Finance Ministry instructed the Bank of China and the Communications Bank to stop exchanging notes for silver, an order which the Communications Bank began implementing on May the 12th. The result, inevitably, was a bank run. Thousands of people descended on the Bank of China, demanding that their paper notes be converted into silver immediately.
What was the Bank of China to do? Should it continue accepting its customers' banknotes and exchanging them for silver? Or should it obey the government's order as the Communications Bank had done? At stake was not only its reputation with its clients, but also its relationship with the warlord government in Beijing. Well, to cut a long story short, Jiang and Song decided to reject the ministry's instruction. These doors behind me were thrown open, the customers rushed in, and their notes were exchanged for silver. The incident became famous in China as the resistance to the government's suspension order.
The Shanghai newspaper, the Shenbao, put out a special edition to announce the decision, reproducing a handwritten announcement from Jiang and Sung, after which the bank run stopped. On the surface, it seemed to be just a matter of the bank protecting its customers' interests, but in fact, it was essentially political. The warlord government had lost all credibility. President Yuan Shikai had spent tens of millions of dollars trying to restore the monarchy with himself as emperor, only to be forced to back down when opposition proved too strong. Over the next few days, the Chinese and foreign banks in Shanghai banded together to provide emergency capital so that the Bank of China could meet its obligations, and the agitation ended. The resistance against the government's suspension order was the first time Chinese bankers had acted together as a group to maintain their own and the country's reputation for financial probity.
After their act of defiance, the young bankers worked more closely together. And before long, they launched another initiative, the establishment of a professional body, which they achieved in July 1918 with the founding of the Shanghai Bankers Association. However, their problems were far from over. 9 years later, they would face an even greater challenge. The new nationalist government in Nanjing would start exerting pressure of an altogether different order. This time, how were they to resist?